Materia. There is a plethora of nostalgic set pieces, items, characters, stories, etc. in the original Final Fantasy VII, and one of the most iconic elements of the bunch is Materia. In the Seven lore, Materia was not only one of the primary links between humans and magic, but also directly integrated with the main plot of the game, many of the subplots, and was also intrinsically tied to how players could build their characters. Given how important Materia was in the original Final Fantasy VII, it's no wonder that fans would be incredibly curious how Square Enix plans to tackle Materia in the remake. This is Radical Edward for Less Than Epic, and today I'm going to be utilizing all available information released to try and determine just that. How will Materia be used in the Final Fantasy VII Remake? I'd like to kick off with a quote from Tetsuya Nomura, the director of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as this will lay the foundation of how he is thinking about Materia in the game. Quote, "Regarding Materia, what I can say is that it's something like a skill. Different from magic, you can use it when you've set a materia that has an effect that can be used in battle." This quote is oddly specific for Nomura, who is usually fairly secretive of his games. Luckily for our purposes, he is using terminology directly from the original Final Fantasy VII and then making clear distinctions in functionality, which is driving the remake's use of materia. Let's compare his quote directly to how the original strategy guide for 7 describes materia. The first clear difference I found is that Nomura specifically says that materia is different from magic, but in the original game the word magic is directly used when describing materia. From the original strategy guide, quote, "Be sure to use plenty of defensive magic to make up for weak armor. A solid barrier is sometimes better than a strong piece of armor. Barrier is a magic spell given to you by the barrier materia." Another, quote, "Quadra magic most summons. Cast the attached summon 4 times in a row. Quadra magic most spells. Cast the attached spell 4 times in a row." A spell or summon in Final Fantasy VII is given to you by equipped materia. Clearly, in no uncertain terms, in the original game, materia and magic were intrinsically tied. If Nomura is considering magic different from materia, however, this calls into question many other elements of what magic materia did for character builds in the original. Again from the strategy guide, quote, "Each materia gives the equipped character certain bonuses and penalties. Avoid overloading characters with materia that have penalties, or you may seriously decrease that character's effectiveness." Often an overlooked element of Final Fantasy VII, materia were literally stat balancing mechanisms which more experienced players used to min-max their character builds, and magic materia were part of the equation those players used. If magic and materia are truly being decoupled in the remake, then it's uncertain at this time how the build systems in the remake are supposed to work. There are 5 major categories of materia in Final Fantasy VII, the original that is, and it's on those building blocks that character builds rest. 3 of those 5 base types are directly tied to the use of magic, and parts of the 2 remaining categories have magic spells tied to them. My greatest fear at this point is that Nomura will severely dumb down the build system for more casual audiences, and that includes the materia system. But let's continue. Nomura did note that materia is something of a skill which does actually match with the original game. In fact, there are many different types of skills which can be gained through materia, making materia something of a catch-all for builds in the game. There is command materia, where you can gain skills like Deathblow, Double Cut, Sense, Steal, etc. Then there is independent materia, where you can learn skills like Counter, Enemy Lure and Away, Experience and Guild Plus, and many others. All of the skills in these tiers of materia are useful, and it's good to hear that Nomura still considers these parts of the build system tied to materia, as these types of materia were just as vital as magic types of materia. This is compounded by 2 facts in the original game as well. First, materia can be combined to cause secondary and complementary effects, such as all materia being combined with other materias to cause the effect to spread to all enemies or allies. For instance, you can combine all with fire materia to cast the fire magic on all enemies, or similarly, you can combine all with cure materia to cast the cure magic on your allies. Second, there is a catch-all materia called enemy skill, where you can learn a ton of different enemy skills in the game. These skills can be collected throughout the game, and they can round out your character build in a huge variety of ways if you choose to use it. However, and I know that I'm beating this to death at this point, but if Nomura splits magic from other types of materia, it's uncertain how character builds will even work anymore, and I hope I've made that point abundantly clear as we're comparing Nomura's quote to the original Final Fantasy VII. But let's continue even further. Nomura said you can use it, meaning skills you gain from materia, when you've set materia that has an effect that can be used in battle. I am hoping that he doesn't mean materia will only be used in battle, as this is an intrinsic difference from the original Final Fantasy VII. Many of the skills and magic you gained from materia in the original 7 could be used outside of battle. For instance, Cure Magic, even when combined with all materia, could be used outside of battle to heal your team. Some materia was specifically intended to give you skills outside of battle, such as Chocobo Lure, which you use to lure chocobos into battle for capture. Gotta catch them all. Enemy away materia and enemy lure materia affected how often random battles could happen, which was very useful in areas of the game where resources might be limited. I am hoping this was just an oversight on Nomura's part, as materia being used outside of battle, while a lesser part of the game, was an important part of the original Final Fantasy VII nonetheless. But let's continue even further. I hope I've sufficiently demonstrated some of the clear differences we can glean from the direction of materia in the remake versus the original game. But now I have some compounding factors that give me even less confidence in the split of magic from materia. The first question I have is, how do higher level spells work? In the original game, you literally had to level up your materia to higher tiers to obtain higher level spells. It was a long process, and obtaining a high-level magic spell was a great achievement in Final Fantasy VII, and it's unclear at this point if that will remain the same in the remake. How will summons work? I really just don't know at this point how the lore will make sense if there is no physical tie between the summon and the user without materia, and Square Enix are going to have to rewrite that aspect of the lore to make it make sense. How will magic and skills work in an action combat system? The reason the active time battle system, which was the original battle system in Final Fantasy VII, worked so well with the materia system is it gave you time to select through a large list of skills and magic. Will Nomura have to severely dumb down the skill systems, given you will no longer have this time to make decisions? I just don't know at this point, and all of these questions bring some fairly core elements of gameplay, character builds, lore, and many other aspects of the original Final Fantasy VII into question. And it's on that note that I would like to remind all of us of something pretty important about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a remake. I think many of us core fans of the original game were hoping for something more akin to a remaster, like something with just better graphics, but it essentially is the same game. But I really think the evidence points to this being a remake, not a remaster. That's not the end of the world per se, but as a math nerd, I am already fairly defeated at what I think is going to be an oversimplification of the original character build system. However, I am still holding out hope that all of this is just speculation happening too early. We are only going on bits and pieces from quotes Nomura made, and it hasn't clarified since. So realistically, all of this could have changed as Square Enix has developed the game further. And it's on that happier note that I'll leave all of you today. I'll be continuing to cover the Final Fantasy VII Remake right here on Less Than Epic. If you like the video, then be sure to share the video with your friends. It really does help out the channel, as we're still a growing channel. We just hit 1,000 subs, which is awesome. Thank you everybody for your continued support, but we could obviously still use the help in growing, and sharing the videos really does help. Thanks for watching everyone, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you get notified when our videos go live. This has been Radical Edward for Less Than Epic, signing out.